Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Theater Makers Interviews. This week, my guest is Brad Kisner, actor, director, graphic design extraordinaire, orange lover.
Yes.
How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. So we'll start at the very beginning.
Okay.
What was your first theatrical experience?
Oh, that's good. My first theatrical experience is when I was in grade school and they had auditions for Mary Poppins. We were doing our spring program and you had to audition for parts. And I was second grade, first grade, and I had to be Michael Banks because I had seen the movie millions of times. So, they had us read, etc. But the key to getting the part was to be able to say supercalifragilisticexpialidocious backwards. I nailed it, got the part, and the rest is history. That's how it started. Yeah.
And what was it about that first show that made you fall in love with theater?
I think it definitely was looking out and seeing people I didn't know, people's parents, brothers and sisters, smiling and just loving every minute of the experience of live theater. I think that's what really fueled my passion for it right away. Like, oh, this is a way to make people happy without actually having to, know who they are. Tons of people that I don't even know, I'm making smile. So that definitely was it for me.
All right. So I have some questions about you as a director.
Sure.
What was your first directing job?
Sure. My official first job as director was Best Little Whorehouse in Texas at Oaklawn Park District Theatre. My mother was like, of course, you can't direct Annie. You have to direct something called Whorehouse. I was like, yep. That was my first full director position.
And did anyone give you any advice going into it as a first-time director?
Oh, sure. My dear friend Paul Nurchi, who I assistant directed so many productions prior to that, said to me, here's the thing to know. Go with your gut when it comes to casting. You'll know when it's right. Don't let anybody tell you any different. Enjoy the experience. Tell the story. And he goes, I don't have to tell you have fun because you know how to do that. And that was pretty much it.
Okay. What scared you the most about going into that first time as a director?
Probably the fact that I was now in charge of a large group of people's amount of time. And I didn't want to waste that time. I had been in so many shows and worked with so many directors that one thing I do, same thing as I do as a designer, I learn from the people that I work with. And so I had learned lots of great qualities from directors I had worked with and also qualities that I would never want to have as a director. So I kind of pooled them all in. And the big one was don't waste anyone's time. Only have them at rehearsal when they had to be there. I mean, sometimes you're going to have to wait a few minutes, but really, really have a tight schedule. And then also working with a choreographer and a music director, I was like, okay, they need just as much time. This is a musical, music's
right.
important. So just really figuring out that first schedule probably is what worried me the most.
All right. And is there a show that you have directed in the past that you would love to revisit and maybe do in a different way? I know you're not always a fan of going back and repeating shows, but is there one that you go, if I had to do that, I'd love to do it in a new way?
I could always direct Big River. I could direct Big River 50 million ways. And the way I did it at Oaklawn was my initial way I wanted to do it. And now that it's years later, I have so many other visuals that I want to bring to that show. But that's a show I could direct and never get sick of. I could be in it and never get sick of it. I would revisit that anytime.
Now, when you get the chance of a show being either brought to you and said, would you be interested in this, or a chance to pitch the show, and I ask this because my first show working with you was Guys and Dolls, which you did in a way that I would have never thought of. Do you think I want to do this more quote unquote traditional, or I want to kind of flip it a little bit because people have seen this so many times?
Right. My whole philosophy as a director with any group is whatever show I'm directing, this is going to be, let's say, Curtain Call's version of Guys and Dolls. I'm not doing a Guys and Dolls that someone else has done. This is your version. I want to make it your version. I want people to be like, remember when we saw Curtain Call's Guys and Dolls? So that's always been my thing. I stay true to the story, but I also, as a graphic designer and a, visual person, I try to create visuals that people, will be like, oh my God, wow. You don't need some humongous, crazy set, because let's be honest, no one can afford those.
Right.
It's not like, and sometimes I think sets take away from shows. And I've always felt like beauty on a budget has always been my motto. And I think I've been able to do that. And so whenever I get asked to do a show, usually it's because people knew that I was not going to bring the typical show, and so I was going to have a way of doing it that was going to challenge people's perceptions. And so I think Guys and Dolls is a perfect example. When I first told them how I wanted to do that show, boy, oh boy, the only person that was 100% in was Gil Oliva. He was like, I get it. Fantastic. Yeah. Everybody else was like, no, I shouldn't say that. Nikki, our choreographer, was right in there. But like the producers kind of looked at me like, what? This is Guys and Dolls. You do Guys and Dolls. And I go, oh, we're going to do Guys and Dolls, but we're going to make these people, people that people can relate to and really tell a story and give it a look that's fun, because they're characters. And so, yeah, but at first I got the stare like, oh, and then about 3 weeks in, people were like, okay, I kind of see where you're going, until they started seeing costumes and seeing you guys trying new costumes. Then everyone was like, oh, okay. Yeah. And so Gil's set, they were like, we get it. We get it.
Yeah. And I would say I think the cast was like that a little bit too going into it, because a lot of people had been in the show previous, other productions, and I assume for them it kind of renewed their interest in the show. Right. Especially when you see a show that you've seen multiple times, and now, something's going to be different about it. Right. And now all of a sudden you pay attention.
Exactly. And I think too, like for me, so many people came up to me afterwards and said, I've seen Guys and Dolls and I never really liked it, but oh my God, now I think it's so much fun. And I said, that's exactly what it should be. It's fun.
Yeah. So what is the hardest decision that you have had to make as a director for the good of all involved in the production?
Casting. Definitely casting. There's been a few shows where casting, it's come down to two people equally talented. And it wasn't even down to like, okay, who works better together. I mean, they both worked better with, they both worked equally as great with the leading guy. But it came down to, okay, this is a huge responsibility, and there has to be a trust factor. And so it came down to the person I'd worked with many a time before. And it wasn't because they were, more talented or anything, but it became, and people were like, we get it. We get it. And I'm not afraid to cast people that I had never met before. I did that tons of times in leading parts. But this was a case where I was like, oh boy, I thought this is going to be pretty easy to figure out. And then it was like, but it always comes together. Casting, I believe that the magical theater fairy always lands on me, and it always folds perfectly together. Everyone, it's like Legos. They just snap together, and I'm like, okay, there it is. But that's probably the hardest was one specific show, and just having people, other people's opinion, and it was just my opinion to cast this person. And then again, 2 weeks later, they're like, yeah, you did the right thing. You totally did the right thing.
So as a director, what do you look for when you're watching people audition?
Oh, first of all, I look for someone that can act a song, because we all know amazing singers, but they are so boring to watch, and I want them to be able to act a song and tell a story in that song. So that's the first thing. The second thing is I look for someone that's got passion behind their eyes, that wants to be there. I mean, I've had so many people audition for me that say, this is my dream role. And I'm like, and you've never read the script?
Right.
that never sat well with me. I'm like, if this is a part that you really want, there's no reason you can't figure it out now with the intrawebs. You know, back in the day, I get it, but not anymore. There's no excuse not to come in there and know. I once directed a production of Cabaret that a girl wrote down. Part she was interested in was Liza Minnelli. I'm not kidding you. I literally looked at that sheet and I said, I don't care if she sings and acts better than anyone in this room. There is no way I could possibly cast this person. That is like an insult. Yeah.
That's really actually very funny.
I was in shock. I was like, and I looked at it and everyone's like, what's wrong? And I handed them and they're like, oh yeah. And they're looking at her picture and they're like, oh yeah. And I go, no, read the part she's interested in, everyone. And the music director was like, seriously? And then she came in and yeah, it was obvious she had no clue what the show was about. She thought it was like just this song, you know? Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I look for people with passion and people that obviously want to be a part of it, you know? And that's half the battle, because I think so often there are amazingly talented people, but it's like, yeah, okay, here I am auditioning, you know me, you know? And I'm like, no, I want you to know that you want this thing.
Right. Now, have you, as a director, had shows where they sang their initial audition song was from the show, as well as they bring in whatever song they want?
Yep.
In those cases where they bring in their own music, do you think, I mean, obviously song choice matters, but do you think, do you take a better appreciation for those who try to match the song to the character they're interested in, instead of just, this song shows off my voice?
So actually, I'm a firm believer of, if you're not going to sing from the show, then sing something that shows off your voice and shows where it can take us.
Okay.
Because, like, yeah, I mean, it's great if someone comes in and gives us a character. I'm like, okay. But I figure if there's someone that I'm like, I can see something in, or they put down, I'm interested in this character, then I might say, hey, can you sing a little bit of this? You know, a little bit of that. So, but definitely show off your voice. Some of these, you know, that's the other thing. People come in and sing these songs that I'm like, I would never sing that at an audition.
Right.
Dear God. God love you for trying, but why would you do that to yourself? Show off that voice. Show us your range. Show us the fact that you can, you know, do a character voice, like in Beauty and the Beast, you know, that you're not just going to get up there and sound like, you know, a high school kid singing LeFou, you know? I mean, it's, that's kind of my take on it.
Okay. So how do you maintain being sober-minded in a field full of differing opinions and perspectives?
Do you mean in terms of,
as a director, you have a lot of opinions. Your staff all have opinions. Your actors all have opinions.
Right. So in terms of staff, when we have our first initial, you know, kickoff meeting about the show, I kind of lay out my ideas and I ask them what they think. And then I'm well open to ideas. I am not that, okay, my way or the highway kind of guy. Anyone that's worked with me knows that. And so we start there, and then we all definitely land. I want to make sure at the end of that meeting, we've landed, like, this is our mantra. This is what we're standing behind. And we don't want to waver from that, because united front, cast, in front of the cast.
Right. And
then the cast, it's really a salesmanship, right? Selling the idea and being like, trust me, it will get there, you know? And I've had a lot of success with that. I think too, I allow actors to give ideas, etc. And then at the end of the day, being an actor myself, I know that, well, you don't know what you look like doing that. So trust me when I say, yes, you can do that, but do it in this way. That kind of thing. I don't dismiss anyone's ideas.
Right.
I think because there is the word, you know, I do direct community theater, so that word community is important to me.
Right. So now I've got some questions for you as an actor.
Okay.
Is there a role that got away, that at this point you go, there's no way I'm going to play that, whether it be, you know, whatever it is. What is that?
Seymour in Little Shop of Horrors. I joke that always a callback, never a Seymour. That's always my joke. I auditioned for that show at least 4 times, got called back 4 times. 2 of the times normally after a show's been cast, I go see it. I'm not the bitter Betty. I just want to see, and 2 of the times I'm like, okay, I see why that guy got that. I see why he got it. He works great. But 2 of the times I'm like,
yeah,
really? Really? But then, you figure out, again, it's those connections. People are connected, whether they're dating the director or the choreographer, whatever. But what I think to me was at least nice is every time I auditioned and didn't get it, I got a phone call or an email from the music director telling me that they absolutely loved my take on the part, and that it was honest, and that they really loved it, and that I wasn't making him a caricature. So many people want to make him a nerd. He's
Right.
not a nerd. And that drove me crazy. And all these people, 2 of these guys made him a nerd. I'm like, okay, I see it. But yeah, that's the one. I would say that's the part. And I always say, yeah.
Is there a dream role that you haven't yet played?
Yes. I would say Molina and Kiss the Spider Woman is
That's exactly what I thought you were going to say.
Yeah. And it's funny because now that I live in Cleveland, I recently saw a production of that last year where a friend of ours actually played that part. He did a beautiful job. I was like, oh my God, I want to audition for that show. But it was either right after our wedding or right, it was going to rehearse during the wedding time. And I'm like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
A wedding to plan. So that's the part. That's still the part. I mean, everything else I've gotten to play, things that I've always wanted to play. I mean, I played Zaza in La Cage, which was my biggest dream ever. I'd play it again. I would love to play it again. Now that I'm even older, I can relate even more. But I think that's a part. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I just love that show. I love that story.
Is there a part that you have played maybe when you were younger that then you played several years later that you think, oh, definitely what happened in my life majorly made me understand this character in a different way?
Yeah, the MC in Cabaret, for sure. Okay. The first time I played it at Hinsdale, Cassie Daw directed it, and amazing production. I was with Dawn Schnolis. I mean, she was Sally Bowles. I mean, hello. But then years later, Oaklawn did it. I got to play a part, and I think I understood the MC's kind of role in it, and then Paul also wanted to be very, he had a very specific way he wanted it done, which was really awesome. And I loved both productions, but I definitely felt like I grew after that first production.
Okay. What has been your biggest accomplishment as an actor?
Oh. I think probably, I think it's both. That's a good question. I would say, well, this is it. Like, for example, I started doing shows on the South Side of Chicago knowing 0 people. Nobody. Walked into the first time Oaklawn did La Cage auditions, walked into that audition just, knowing no one. And then because, having people be like, wow, who are you? And I did the same thing here in Cleveland. I walked into Hudson Players, auditioned for the producers, and now I've met another amazing group of people. It's theater people. Yeah. And I think that's probably my biggest accomplishment is the fact that I'm not afraid to walk into these situations because I know, at the end of the day, they're theater people. And if you can't, if they're not going to like you, oh God, that's, then you've got bigger problems. So I think it's always been my safe place. And I think that's probably my biggest accomplishment is people, recognize you. It was cute because I directed Noises Off here at Hudson Players last fall. And people come in and, to see the show, and I'm there, and people were like, weren't you you were the guy in the producers. You were that funny guy. You were the assistant in producers. I said, yes, that was me. And then other people were like, no, that wasn't you. No, that guy had dark black hair. I'm like, wig. I'm like, wig.
Right.
Like, oh my God, you look so different. I go, yeah, welcome to theater. That's the joy of it. So, but I would say that's probably my proudest achievement as well, is being able to just audition at places and instantly, fit in and feel at home and really meet some amazing people.
What are your favorite attributes of a good director?
First of all, understanding the time commitment, keeping people, at task. Also, really, being a good communicator is important, and helping people, understand. I've always worked really well with someone that communicates very clearly. I've only probably had like 2 directors I would never probably work with again. And the problem was, is that it wasn't, I didn't have an issue with them and we never had a problem, but I just watched them communicate with other actors or not communicate with other actors and then get frustrated with that actor. And I'm like, then the actor in me wanted to be like, if you just said this, they know what you meant, but you can't do that. I wasn't going to be that person. So, those are 2 qualities. And I think the third quality is someone that has a passion for the show they're directing, and really understands it and just doesn't think, oh yeah, this is what I've seen here. This is what we're doing,
Right.
No. A perfect example of that was when I did Drowsy Chaperone and Man in Chair. And, Tommy Fagan directed that. And he did such a good job because he's like, he goes, this guy is such a character and such a person. He's a real person. He's like, I want you to develop that real person. I don't want him to just sit there in the chair and then turn on and turn off.
Right.
And really let me play and was very good about, and I knew I wasn't there to steal scenes. So as the action was going on, I would wait till applause and then suddenly do something and see, did anyone notice? Like, he's like, did you just take some sort of pill? And I go, oh yeah, I've decided he's antidepressive. So he takes a pill he's like, yeah, I saw you take, he goes, that was awesome. He goes, you just, yeah. And went back to it. And it was really fun. That was, because he never leaves the stage. So, you had to figure that out. That I think was awesome. Just a director that lets their actors experiment and is with them on that experiment.
Okay. What are your biggest pet peeves about directors and about other actors on stage?
First, about directors is anybody that yells at someone. We're not there to be yelled at. You don't need to yell at someone or belittle someone or make someone feel, less than. And if you have if you're having issue with an actor, privacy, you don't have to do that in front of the cast. That's probably that one. Actors, someone that is trying to direct the show when they're in the show. We all know them.
Mm-hmm.
We've all been in shows with them. That is my biggest pet peeve. And it just drives me crazy when someone's like, oh, you should do this, you should do that. Or, it's like, okay, I'll let those people tell me to do it. That's why they're here.
Right.
That's probably my biggest pet peeve. That and the actor who isn't there for their fellow actors, who's obviously there just to, do whatever they're there to do for. I mean, I've worked with some amazing actors and actresses that are 100% with you on stage. I mean, Gina Vitucci. I've done many a show with Gina, and she is a perfect example of she is there for you 100%. Yeah. Rick Rapp, same person, same thing. It's just those kind of people, I think, that's what makes it awesome. Definitely.
If a show was created about you, who would play you?
Oh, woo. I would say it would either have to be Paul Rubens. I would say it'd have to pretty much be Paul Rubens. I think, he would have to play me. Shave his head.
Okay.
Play me. Yep. Yeah, because I would play him in a Lifetime movie, so I figure it's fair.
All right. I don't know what I was expecting, but that wasn't quite the answer I was expecting.
Well, Paul Rubens or Cher. Cher would be my second choice to play me.
Okay.
Cher can play anything.
Okay. So what is your approach to learning lines?
So now I have a very, very clear approach. This lovely app called Line Learner.
Mhm.
I discovered it during when I did Drowsy Chaperone. Someone said, "Oh my God, are those lines?" And someone said, I don't even know who it was, and I should have thanked them. They're like, "Get Line Learner." It was like $2, and I'm like, oh my God, it is a savior. It's for lyrics, everything. And now I promote it to everyone. Like when I directed Noises Off, they were like, oh my God. I'm like, Line Learner. And they all were like, where has this been? Because you can drive, you should drive and you're doing the scene with yourself. I mean, I just did Company and all those Bobby Baby, Bobby Boobies. Oh my God. It was funny. We rehearsing, and then they're like, okay, let's try it off book. And everyone's like, how do you know this already? I said, Line Learner, people. I'm telling you, I do it every morning all the way to work and every time I'm coming home. So yeah, that's definitely my way. Definitely.
Okay. Someone else just mentioned that recently too in one of the interviews, and I had never heard of it, so I've got to look into that.
Oh, you'll love it because you can speed it up and you can only do your lines. So you can play your lines. So literally you just hear your own lines over and over, and then you insert, you do the scene with yourself. So then you can insert the other people's lines at the time, and then you can blank out your lines. It's so fantastic.
Great.
Yeah.
You all heard it. Line Learner. Go buy it. Do you have any pre-performance rituals or superstitions before you go on stage?
So, a few years ago, 3 years ago, it'll be 3 years this September, my dad passed away. So since then I have a whole different ritual, but pre that, I'm someone that has to get to the theater at a certain amount of time before a show. I figure that out once I know the show well enough. I literally do the same steps. I mean, it's like, okay, I do this, I put my makeup shirt on, I do this. I mean, I'm very ritualistic. People at Oaklawn used to always make fun of me. And then right before I go on stage, I just always think, the first thing I do, because I'm still always a little nervous until I hit the opening night, until you hit those lights. And once you're out there, I'm fine. It's just always that, jitters. But I think, my ritual getting ready, and then always right before I go on, I just take a moment and I'm like, 100% in, don't even, escape. Here we go. And it's like I enter, that world. I'm no longer, it's whatever's happening out there. I don't care. It's like, I'm that person. I'm whoever that is. Now I carry a picture with both my mom and my dad, in my pocket, or like on Noises Off, they were on the set in a frame, I did the picture. Yeah. And so pre-ritual, I just look at them, put them in my pocket, off I go. But yeah, those are kind of my superstitions. I'm very, 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 people can see my path, know exactly what I'm doing in what order. Check my props after I do certain things. I mean, I am once I figure out the show and once we get into Tech Week, once I set that ritual, I mean, it's very hard for me to not do that.
Do you have any sort of, we'll say, any sort of signs or anything that comes to you before you go out there the first time that lets you know, okay, everything's good, the show's going to be good, anything like that? I'll give you an example that I gave in the last interview, which was, I always have a thing of, if before I make my first entrance, I have got to pee so badly, something about that, it's always been this way, and even more so now that I noticed it, I always end up having a good show. And by the time I get off the next time, I no longer have to pee. It's just some feeling in my body. And then other people know and will say, before I'm standing waiting to make my entrance, and somebody will be like, do you have to pee? Because now people know. But it's one of my things. I'm just like, oh, that's a good sign. I've not really had one where there was like nothing, and I'm like, uh-oh, this isn't good. But, I don't know. I'm always curious if other people have that sort of thing.
My thing has always been to, I think, right before, like wherever the stage is, I always have to make sure there's a mirror, because if I'm wearing a wig or whatever, I always either have to put a little powder on or check the wig.
Mhm.
Bald man with no hair, and all of a sudden you give him hair. It's always this. And if I think that's something that I deal with, but also I think it's going to be a good show. One thing I always is, you hear the people out there talking. I never look out the curtain, but you hear the buzz. You can tell. And if there isn't a big buzz, then I'm like, all right, everybody, 150%, because this crowd needs to, they don't, like Friday nights, they're obviously, just coming home from work or whatever. So they're, but in Saturday nights, they've been out for drinks. And so there's a different kind of buzz. But I definitely, that's one thing how does the audience, how do they sound? Okay, well, we know what we have to do,
Yeah.
And I think that's something that I've always kind of paid attention to. But I always have a feeling that I'm a positive thinker. So I'm like, no matter what, it's going to be a good show. I mean, because, in it to win it, be prepared for anything, but it's going to be a good show.
If you had a magic wand to end everything that is happening with the pandemic,
Mhm.
what show would you like to start rehearsals on?
Oh boy. I would love to start, well, Kiss the Spider Woman.
Yeah.
Yep. I could magically, yes, definitely. I would like to start with that. I would love to, yeah, that would be my first choice. Yeah.
Okay. In your opinion, what makes a good play or a good musical?
Definitely the story, and a solid story with solid characters. Because I think that's true about musicals. Yes, the music helps it, but if there's not solid characters and not a solid story, and you don't care about these people, then it doesn't make a good show. I feel like there's some shows I've seen where I'm like, well, that was fun, but I didn't care about any of those people.
Right.
But definitely that's key to me, is a solid story with solid characters, because there's lots of, it seems like there's some shows where they throw these extra characters in and they didn't really think about it. I'm like, well, where do they end up? They just kind of
Right.
come on and off. So that would definitely be my thing. Definitely.
Is there a novel that you love or a movie that you love that you wish someone would adapt into a stage musical, and why?
Oh my God. Well, let's see. So, novel. Yes, I would love, for camp reasons, pure fun, camp reasons. I would love to see a Mommy Dearest musical. That is.
Okay.
But movie-wise, I mean, I would love to see. I would love to see like American Beauty as a musical.
Okay.
How would that turn out? Because I
Yeah.
love that movie, and how would that be on stage, and what sort of music would it be? It could be really cool, and weird but cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I figure, there's every other topic. But yeah, that would be fun. Oh, of course, Pee-wee's Big Adventure would be a fun musical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and there's a part for you in it.
Yeah.
What sort of stories inspire you as an actor?
Stories of people that I think maybe are on the fringes or on the edges or not necessarily understood. I think those are characters I've always loved to play. Like a Zaza, or like a Man in Chair, or I think those kind of parts are really awesome, and I think that's the power of theater, that it can really help people see things that they're not necessarily used to seeing, or understand things that they thought they understood.
Mhm.
I use Big River for an example. Everyone has read Huckleberry Finn in grade school or middle school, whenever they read it, and thought, okay, I know that story. And then that's one thing the musical did, is it really brought it to life, and the music really tells, the whole idea of these people are, two totally different, lives. Here's Huck, who just wants to go have adventures, and here's Jim, who couldn't have it, has to escape to have an adventure. But I think those sort of things really, is what theater's about, I mean, we're here to affect people and hopefully change some minds. I mean, if we can do that, we're not going to do it to a whole audience, but if we could do it with, a quarter of the audience, I feel like we've done our job.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So you have played, we'll say, characters that would be considered heroes, the protagonist of the story. You've also played villains.
Mm-hmm.
Which do you prefer and which is more fun?
Oh, that's tough because like in Millie, I was Mrs. Mears, who was a fantastic villain. I mean, I loved her. Another part I play again in a heartbeat. Oh God, that was really fun. Yeah, that's tough because I think I probably love the villains more because then you try to get the audience to love you, and if they boo you at curtain call, you did a great job. It's the boos, it's not the bad boos. But I think that was more fun because, well, for one, people didn't expect that from me. They didn't expect me to be the bad guy.
Right.
I mean, I remember when we did Les Mis at Oaklawn, and Paul Nurchi's like, can you just be this one part? I'm like, okay, I'll be that, because I was like, I don't really need to be in this. That's fine. It's huge. I need to help you. And so I was like, Fontine's rapist. And after the show, people were like, I never want to see you in that sort of role again.
Yeah.
Never. My mom was like, no. And I was like, it was funny how people were like, so like, no.
Yeah.
No. And it was fun because, I got to, be with Gina Vitucci again, and she got to attack me, and that was fun. And the first couple times we did it, we could not be serious. And Paul was like, okay, you too. But yeah, it was fun how people just reacted like, no, you can't, and then the same people didn't even know I was in Millie because I never took my wig off. They never knew it was me. So
yeah.
No, to this day, little ladies probably still think I did make that show and they're angry about it, but that's okay.
It's very funny because I remember seeing that and going, oh, of course, that's hysterical for him to play it, and then finding out, I don't know if JR directed it, but at his high school, they had a black student playing a male black student, so it was a black male playing a white woman playing an Asian woman.
Asian woman, yeah.
Yeah, and he said, of course, it got tons of laughter. So, has there been any big onstage flubs or bloopers over the years that maybe at the time weren't necessarily funny, but you look back now and you can't help but laugh?
I am very lucky because I haven't had any crazy huge ones in an actual performance. During like Tech Week, some crazy things have happened, but nothing that, was injured anyone. I was in a production of City of Angels where it was on a revolve, and the, what did they call that thing that the old man was in? What do they call those?
The iron lung?
Yes, thank you. The iron lung. So it was a little off the revolve and they started rotating, it tipped over. And so literally, I didn't know it. This is when I was 20 something. I was playing the son, the bad son.
Mm-hmm.
And we were supposed to come on. And so we didn't know it had fallen. We didn't know it didn't go on. So we go on the scene, we walk on. Rule number one, pay attention. Even in the dark, look around to make sure all the set's there, Brad. This was early days. So the lights come up and me and the girl playing Mallory are like, the lung is not there. And we're like, and in comes, Aurora and all that. She's like, and we're all like, oh, there she goes. And then if that wasn't bad enough, then her gun didn't work. Oh my God. So she runs backstage in a panic because she grabbed the wrong gun that didn't have any, blanks in it. And then she says into the microphone, where's my bleeping gun? And so of course the audience is dying. And at that point I'm like, this scene is over. We're done. But that was about the only thing during a show that, but it wasn't crazy. I mean, I haven't had any major bloopers or anything. I did one time was in a scene with someone that, because the lines are very similar, that went back to the beginning of the scene. We've all been in that situation. And then you're like, no, we're not doing this scene again. So I literally skipped to the end of the 4 lines before the end of the scene. It was like, done, cut 5 minutes off the show. But you know what? We couldn't go back. We weren't, because it was like, and they didn't even know they did it. God love them. They were like, that was a great scene. I was like, oh.
Yeah, I was in a show once where myself and another girl, our parents, her mom and my father meet in a doctor's office, and we were off stage back in the green room. There's a camera, we're watching, and I hear my cue line to know I've got about 6 or 7 lines before I have to make an entrance. And they said it, and they should not have said it yet. They skipped about 4 pages.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you know, with those little script books, that's a lot of dialogue.
Yep.
And I went running as fast as I could, grabbed my briefcase on the way to the door. And as I got to the door, I'm listening, waiting for my line to open the door. And they jumped back those 4 pages. And I was like, partially, thank God, because there was stuff in there we needed for later. But it was like, how did they even realize? I don't even know if they realized they jumped forward and jumped back. But
yes,
yeah, was the man in the iron lung when it fell?
yes.
Oh,
He was fine though, thank goodness. But yeah, that was crazy. That was, oh my God, that was outdoor theater. But the stage was covered at that point.
right.
Back home in Rockford, yeah, it was crazy during
Wow.
college. Oh my God.
So, what do you think are some of the most important lessons that theater teaches us?
Oh goodness. First of all, it teaches you, communication for sure. Communication skills. I can't stress that enough. Like now, working, and when you're in the workforce, you can always tell people that have either been in high school theater or whatever, especially when they present. It's amazing how I'll always ask if someone does a good, I'm like, were you ever involved in theater? And they're like, no, but I was on the speech team. And I said, yeah, I can tell. Yep.
Yeah.
Ding. I think that's key. I think just social skills, I think, is huge. I mean, I've done tons of shows with, kids that are teenagers, and they're just so much well-adjusted. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm always amazed. I always love it. And it's just interesting. Whether they're on stage or if a teenager's like helping in the light booth or whatever, theater kids are just so much more adjusted and so much more mature. I mean, they just get it,
Yeah.
It's thank God. I think it also teaches you just discipline, and it's a good thing to really, set a goal and go after something and just really work at it. And of course, I think it teaches you just the pure, joy of the human experience. I mean, people are like, why do you do theater? Do you do it? I said, I don't do it. So people are like, oh my God, you're so good. I do it because I love the feeling that when people laugh or applaud, that they're enjoying something, and I've taken them away from something crappy. Like I know when I go see a show, that's what I want to, I'm there to be entertained and be a part of it. And I think that's what I've always loved about it. And as a director, it's double fold because you're creating that for people.
Right.
So it's like you're in charge of it. So it's probably a lot more nerve-wracking to be a director than an actor. I definitely believe that. Definitely.
Is there anything within the theater world that you wish you were better at?
Oh yes. I mean, I wish I was a phenomenal dancer, and I wish I
That is the running answer for everybody so far.
Yeah, really? Yeah, I think that's probably true. I mean, I by no means do I consider myself a singer, but I can sing in musicals, and I work at that. But I think if I could be a better, dancer, but although people are like, what do you mean? You can kick, but I sell it. I learned that early on in my high school career, sell it. And I also have a father that had great rhythm and was a great, can move. So thank God I had that. So at least it's in my blood,
Is there a opposite gender role that you would love to play?
Oh, yes. Let me think of which, there's so many. Um, um, wow. I think, well, definitely one of them would be Adelaide and Guys and Dolls. That's
Okay.
definitely a part I've always thought was, well, up until, it'll be 2 years this October, I could totally relate to, being the non-married. But that part, of course, I would kill to be Cher in the Cher show. Um, that's a given. Although Stephanie J. Block, God, she had the walk down. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. It would just, I screamed out loud in the theater in Chicago the first time she walked across the stage. And my brother looked at me and I was like, she's got the walk. That's her walk. It was, what other one? There's probably so many too when I think about it. Trying to think about what I love to sing, just belt out in the car when I'm driving. Female ones, but definitely Adelaide has always been a part I thought was an awesome, because I think it's well written and it's such a good character, such a good character. I always loved her. And the chaperone and Rosie Chaperone, I would love to play too.
Yeah,
I would love to play that part. That's a good part too. But I got the chance to play Mears. I would kill to play that again.
Yeah,
that's just. But yeah, those are probably. Yeah, because I'm thinking of other funny ones, and I really love that part. I think that would probably be, and it's in a classic musical, which is pretty funny for me.
Do you desire to be known for what you do or who you are, and why?
Who I am, for sure. Because I think, I was raised to be 100% authentic and never, feel like that wasn't good enough or should be changed. I was very lucky. And that's something that I've tried to let people know that, and as a director, I feel like I've been able to, that's kind of where I come from, like, hey, I'm here to 100% support you and to, let you, do it. So I think definitely who I am. What I do, other people can do, like as a graphic designer, other people can do that. Yes, do I want to be known as, do I want people to say, yeah, he's a very, very talented graphic designer, but I'd much rather prefer them saying, yeah, he's an awesome person. And I wish there were more like him. I would much prefer that.
What has been your favorite role or favorite show that you have been in?
Lacage, for sure. Lacage, because it was the hardest thing I ever had to do. It was the most challenging. It was so many costumes, so many wigs, so much to think about. But at the end of the day, it was, it was just something I'd wanted to do since I first saw the show when I was in 7th grade. So it was like a dream. Every moment was not wasted. And people made fun of me because I'm like, okay, I could put one more ring on. And Birdie would be like, if you put one more thing on, he's like, do you know how fast we have to? I'm like, Birdie, I've waited for this show since I was in 7th grade. I'll put it on as I enter if I have to. I said, every detail. It was ridiculous. But I had to do it that way. Because I waited, and it was like, if I'm doing this, I'm going to do it. And it was awesome. And I had amazing people behind me. So that was even a double bonus.
Is there a favorite role that you've played so far?
Zaza.
Okay.
Because I feel like that message is my message, I am what I am,
Yeah.
And I've always said that. I'm like, okay, this is what you get. This Brad is no different than my daytime Brad. That's the joy of it. I sing in meetings at work. Everyone's like, what musical are we doing today? I don't, I don't know how to do anyone but Brad. So that's what it is.
Is there a favorite show that you've directed?
That's tough because they're all like your children, and they're all so different. You know, it's like I say to the cast, this is this group of people in this time frame doing this show this way. What a great gift we have. Probably my favorite show that I ever directed, again, probably because of how hard it was and how much it was so, in a lot of ways, not a me show, was Sweeney Todd.
Okay.
I mean, that's my joke now. When everyone's like, oh, this show's so hard to direct or whatever, I like pretend I'm pulling out a business card and I throw it down and I go, Sweeney Todd. And they're like, okay, you win. Because, yeah, that was because the vision of that show, you know, it's automatically dark, but creating this look that I wanted, and to be able to really do it and do it successfully. And I was extremely lucky to have an amazing cast of people that were way, way into it too and ready for that journey. Well, that's cool about those kind of shows though.
Right.
Those shows that everybody wants to do. I mean, that's the best part, but still it doesn't mean they're going to be a great show. But the fact that every single person was so passionate about it and had waited to do that show. So, but it was definitely the hardest show because musically there's no adding anything, and once it starts you're going, and that you know, the box, as I call it, has to move, and it has to be where it has to be, and the lights I mean, it was like, oof, it was like you started that show and you're like, okay, good luck, let's you know. I loved it. I think probably also why I love it so much is opening night. I'm sitting in like the fourth row getting ready to watch it, and you know, they say, and Joy Sweeney Todd or whatever, and the woman in front of me looks at her friend and goes, Sweeney Todd? I thought we were seeing No No Nanette. I'm like, oh Lord.
Here we go.
Oh, I said, my friend Brittany that was sitting next to me, she was like, oh, this is gonna be good. This is gonna be good. I was like, yeah. And then towards the end of the show, when Toby's grinding up, the woman yells out, who wrote this? Who wrote this? It was classic. It was classic.
So,
oh, the dog's bark. Arnie's home.
Oh, yeah. You've probably seen my husky jumping back and forth a couple of times.
Yes.
So you've had Sweeney Todd is definitely a difficult show to put together. You've also had Noises Off, which I've directed as well. It's not an easy show to put together.
And that was my first play that I ever directed.
Did you have had you ever been involved with the production of it before? So, because I had assistant directed it once before, which I think definitely let me know going in. Right. These are going to be the difficult parts. Was it something that you were approached with? Did you go, you know, I'm assuming you had seen it before at least.
Yes, I had seen it twice. And the most recent time was probably 5 years ago. And it was a great production. But there were so many things I forgot that went, you know, I was like, oh. So when I read it, but the thing I did too is I decided, because normally when I direct a show, I try to go see it to see where those hard points are when I watch. You know, like, ooh, like when I was going to direct Miss Saigon, I saw 3 other community theaters do it just to make sure. I'm like, ooh, this is a set change nightmare here. Ooh, this is a this here. So I could do that for Noises Off. So then I started Googling productions, and I was like, ooh, there's a nightmare. There's a nightmare. There's that. This set doesn't work the way it should. So definitely, it was crazy that was my first play. I was like, Noises Off. Okay. I couldn't get like, you know, Our Town. Thanks.
Right.
You know?
Right.
But not that there's anything easy about Our Town, but at least it's not Noises Off with a rotating set, you know?
Right. It's a difficult play to read. You know, I have all my stacks of scripts, and Thomas grabbed some of them one time, and I said, oh, I think this is hands down the funniest play that you could see on stage. It's a total love letter to theater people, but non-theater people will enjoy it so much.
Right.
And he started to read it, and I said, I can't wait till you get to the second act. and figure out how to read this. And he finally had gotten to it, and he just went, I'm so lost. And I said, I know, that's the point. You're so lost because on paper, it's absolutely insanity.
Yes.
And on stage, it's insanity that makes sense.
Right. Well,
so, yeah.
And I quickly learned that people, the first time, you know, where they stopped the rehearsal, people were like, you know, like totally new people. And it took them like 3 times of stopping to get it like, oh, this is part of it. Like, oh, he's not the, he's an actor. You know, you could see people. It was funny. Like, I was like, oh my God. But then again, we're theater people. We get it. We get the jokes. Right. It was hard for some people at first. And then Act 2, they're peeing their pants, you know. Right. And then when it rotates back around, they're like, oh my God, now we know what's going on back there. You know, it is really smart. It's really smart.
When I assistant directed, the guy that played Gary, when he fell down the stairs and we had the grand kind of slightly winding staircase, it was dead silence for about 3 seconds because nobody knew if that was supposed to happen. And then it took me laughing because I thought it was hysterical every time.
Right.
But because he really put himself into it and he figured out how to really make it look like he might be dead on the floor.
Right.
And he was just, I think he was just slightly kind of behind the couch, so you couldn't 100% see how he was.
Right.
It was just that, it was that and the 3 seconds of the audience going, that of course just made me laugh because I'm just like, they believe this is real.
Right.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So this is a question kind of pertaining to your day job. So looking at it, says that you work for Joanne still, right?
Yep.
Are you designing? You design the covers of the patterns?
No.
Okay.
I design the private labels for that packaging. So and work on package design. When I first started there, I was actually designing product. I was designing things so people could craft in the basic craft pog. So all the seasonal merchandise that's like a wood cutout with this and this and this on it and this and this. I was doing all that, which is what I call a reverse design problem. And then I got the chance to become a lead designer in the packaging department and really help them work on developing their private labels, and that's really my focus. And it's something I love. I mean, I love brands. I love identity design. So this is like right in my wheelhouse. And packaging is just it's such a fun field. And plus, it's for a retailer that is all about letting people be creative. So it's like a win-win for me. I have designed some fabric for them. I designed we partnered with 4-H, and I designed a whole bunch of 4-H things, patterns and stuff, which was fun. But fabric design, God love it. There's a special type of designer that's print and pattern, and that's not me. I'm like, I couldn't imagine, but we have an amazing group of people that do that. But yeah, so I do all the fun packaging and stuff.
So I mean, like the envelope, the front cover, is that what you're doing?
So like, for example, when you buy something and it's got what we call a header card in a poly bag, that header card, all the design of it, where the text is, what the logo looks like, what color it is, all that stuff. So there's a lot of and there's a lot of packages in that store. So, and then the private labels, like we have one, our seasonal, it's called Place and Time. So in Christmas time, it's Place and Time, but then there's a trend name that goes with it, and we have to design the color that matches the trend and make sure, it's a lot of, there's a lot of marketing tied to it, which is great, which is good for me because it keeps me honest as a designer. So, but yeah, no, I love it. I love it.
So now I realize the mistake I'm making. I am thinking strictly of patterns, not Joanne's as the whole place.
Right.
That's what I'm not
You're thinking of the
you're explaining it, I'm going, well, how much? And then it just hit me. Oh no, Joanne's just, I'm thinking of like a McCall's pattern or something like that.
Yes,
you're doing the place that those are sold at.
Right. No, there are people that design the actual fabric, the print and pattern that goes on the fabric. There are people that do that. But
because my question was going to be, are you constantly seeing things that make you break out into song? Because like, oh, that reminds me of this, and start,
There
as many
are
of you see patterns and go, oh,
Yes.
here's a 20s pattern. I'm going to start
Right.
singing Millie. That's
right, exactly. Well, no, but merchandise I already start singing. So yeah, I mean, like especially seasonal merchandise. Like they always love when 4th of July merchandise is going to start to come in because they know they're going to get a rousing rendition of Yankee Doodle Dandy with tap break. So
with tap break.
yes, with tap break.
All right, we will end with a modified version of the questionnaire created by Bernard Pivot.
Okay.
What is your favorite musical?
Big River.
What is your least favorite musical?
Oliver.
Thank you. Do you have a favorite play?
No, I don't necessarily have a favorite. No, I do like 6 Degrees of Separation a lot.
Okay. Do you have a least favorite?
Oh boy. No, there, all the straight shows I've seen and stuff and read, there hasn't been one that I'm like, ooh. Definitely musicals though that I've been like, ooh.
What is your favorite word?
Poop.
What is your least favorite word?
Fag.
What sound or noise do you love?
Fart noises make me laugh.
What sound or noise do you hate?
Dog throwing up.
Okay. What profession, and we'll count both working as a designer as well as an actor-director, what profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Oh, like a CSI person that investigates murders.
Okay.
Yeah. I know it's crazy, but there's something I think is cool. Like I always say, yeah, if I had done this, I might have gone into that.
I assume you watch a lot of those shows.
Well, I've seen a lot of those shows, but like now with mysteries and things and looking at clues, I just think it's very interesting. Very, very.
I think because I religiously from the beginning have watched Law and Order SVU, and of course makes me watch Law and Order a lot.
Right.
It's one of those things where I sit there and go, I think people who love the show either think they know exactly how to commit the perfect crime or how to solve every crime.
Exactly. Well, see, I just got done watching. We watched How to Get Away with Murder, all the seasons, because we Netflix during our lovely COVID, and that even made me love it more. Just by like we were like, I mean, that show. I mean, it was like, oh my god. So yeah, burner phone. That's how you get away with murder.
Is there a profession you would not like to attempt?
I wouldn't want to be a nurse.
Okay.
I mean, oh my God, I know so many and God love them, but I couldn't do it after having, been in hospital rooms over the last few years with my parents. I couldn't see that day in and day out. It would drive me. Oh, I would not be the happy-go-lucky guy I am.
And our final question, if an afterlife exists, what would you like to hear when you get to that place?
Oh, I would like to hear from the Wiz, Can You Feel a Brand New Day? That's what I'd like to hear. And I'd like a full musical number by all my friends that are already wherever they are. Friends and family member. Full musical number, Orange Glitter. That's all I ask.
All right. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for answering the questions.
Sure, it's been a blast.
Again, everyone that's watching, we'll be back again next week with another episode. And everybody stay safe out there.
Thank you.